So, boys and girls, this is the continent of Africa from outer space. It has so many countries within the continent.
There are actually 54 countries in the continent of Africa.
We are going to add a few design elements of kente cloth, an African cloth with these wonderful geometric designs, and we're just going to add a bit of it to our paper to add a little element of African design.
All right, boys and girls. Now, after we have worked on this portrait, this one is of Mae Jemison, first African American woman in space. I had this Xerox, cut it in half, and oh, my dog is drinking water. And I've added color to the background, her face, and her clothing here. So, boys and girls, actually, this is for space, spacesuit. So now we're going to set up the background. I'm going to use a black marker. You do not have to, but I'm using this in order for you to see the paper through the camera. So, boys and girls, I want mine just broken up simply into shape and into color. And then we are going to be adding her name, or the person that you've been studying, their name, to on top of our design. So I'm just breaking it really simply for some simple shapes and patterns. Now I kind of want this to look a little bit like African cloth with high patterns and different designs. But we're going to be covering up part of this. So I'd like to set up first a pattern of maybe triangles. And in African cloths, there's a repeating pattern of geometric shapes often. This one, I think I'm going to try diamonds. Or I could do, actually, I think this one I'll do a double triangle. 1, 2, 1, 2. Very simple. 1, 2. And then I'll be adding some color in here. Now we don't want to get too complicated. I'm going to try to keep it simple. And I'm just going to have this one waving in a different direction. And another simple pattern could be circles or squares. I'm just going to break this up into some circles. You do not have to use a black marker. I'd like you to be able to see what I'm doing. And I'd like to make some diamonds, which are actually pretty complicated. A diamond is a triangle from the top and a triangle from the bottom. Triangle, and I will show you once I trace it. Now, of course, this isn't going to be completely even and perfect because I'm on a curved line, and that's okay. Or you could decide, I want my background to be simple lines and colors. That's wonderful too. You decide. Now, boys and girls, that I have the diamonds set up, I'm going to trace over them and add some color. And this famous woman is part of NASA, so I want some red, white, and blue colors, maybe a little bit of some beautiful patterning that's reminiscent of African cloth, but I also want to add a little bit of the red, white, and blue coloring of the flag into my work. And I think I'm just going to do a simple design over here and one over here. All right, and now I'm going to add color. Boys and girls, you'll be getting a rectangle, and we will be writing the name of the person you're focusing on. So the rectangle is going to go over the center of your work, so there's
certain sections of your work that you won't have to color. That rectangle will sit on top of it. And don't worry, I will give you a rectangle so you can kind of measure it out and figure out what sections of the paper you will not have to add color to, because we're going to overlap this person's name over or your study over, so you do not have to color in the entire piece of paper. But you have to measure out where you're going to place it. All right, boys and girls, I had to flash my light away from my paper so you could see the lettering I have. I just wrote a really light line across, 2 light lines, one for her first name, one for her last name. So I'm going to take a pencil. I'd like you to take a pencil and either make a block letter or a bubble letter around her name or his name. Now, I'm going to do bubble letters. And when you're creating a bubble, you're going around the top, around the bottom, and in the inside of letters that have a circular shape or a triangular shape inside. Okay, I have to change my lighting so you can kind of see what I'm doing here. Okay, so I'm going to start at the top. And I'm making a line down from the M. I'm curving over the end, back up. And you can see that I'm a little bit distant away from the letter. I don't want my pencil to touch the letter. And if it does, oh well, I use my eraser and I fix it. So there's the M. Now I'll go around the A. Once I make the turn, I go back up. Try to stay away from your written lines. So you're just kind of creating a bubble, just like the word bubble letter, a bubble around the initial lines. And that's no problem. There's a first name. The J, I'm going to curve around from the top, go down, try not to touch the letter. You can make some of the letters have a little bit more of a bump or a little bit more flow, or it gets a little wider in some spots and narrower in others. It just depends on the style. Some of you like to make block letters. Feel free to make Feel free to make block letters instead of bubble. If you do a block letter, at the end of the letter, you make a straight line. This one, I'm just doing some soft bubble letters. And then we're going to fill it in. Probably with black markers so that it can be seen from a distance. It's important if you're making a poster and there's writing in it, you want to make it legible from a distance. And the O, you got to go on the inside and the outside of the letter. And my last letter is N. And all I need to do to complete this work is to fill in the letters and glue my paper down. All right, boys and girls. All right, boys and girls. And all we need to do now is glue the paper in place.
and the work is complete. Don't worry if it's imperfect. Letters often look imperfect. You're drawing freehand. You're not a machine, and that's actually the beauty of it. Thank you, boys and girls.